did colonial extraction lead to Latin America's economic dependency? Imagine a region rich in resources but still struggling with poverty and inequality. That's a story many Latin American countries share, and it all ties back to their colonial past. During the colonial era, European powers like Spain and Portugal took vast amounts of silver, gold, sugar, and other resources from Latin America. They built their wealth on these exports, often using forced indigenous labor to do so. This created a pattern where Latin America's economy was designed to supply raw materials to Europe and later, to industrializing nations like Britain and the United States. After independence in the early 1800s, these countries faced the challenge of building their own economies. But the structures left behind kept them dependent on exporting raw materials. Instead of developing local industries, they focused on moving their resources out of the country. Railroads, ports, and roads were built mainly to export goods, not to connect local markets or foster internal growth. This meant Latin America became vulnerable to global price swings for commodities like coffee, copper, and oil. When prices for these commodities rose, the economies boomed. But when prices fell, many countries faced economic crises. For example, when the market for guano fertilizer collapsed after synthetic alternatives were invented, Peru's economy suffered. This boom and bust cycle became a recurring theme, making it hard for these nations to stabilize and grow steadily. From a cultural point of view, many Latin Americans see this history as a reason for ongoing economic disparities. The wealth generated from colonial extraction often benefited a small elite and foreign investors, leaving most people with little improvement in their lives. The focus on exporting raw materials kept local industries weak and limited economic diversification. Economists call this dependency theory, which suggests Latin America's economy is still shaped by its role as a supplier of raw materials to richer nations. Today, most Latin American countries still relying heavily on exporting commodities. Only a few, like Mexico, have managed to diversify their economies. For many, the legacy of colonial extraction is visible in persistent inequality, economic vulnerability, and challenges in creating stable growth. This history influences how Latin Americans see their place in the world economy. They often want to break free from this dependency, but doing so requires changes in politics and social structures as well. In the end, colonial extraction set the stage for Latin America's economic dependency. It created a pattern of exporting raw materials that continues to shape the region's economy and society today. Understanding this history helps explain why economic disparities remain and why building a more self-sufficient economy is still a challenge for many Latin American nations.